The crystalline spires of Fort Eclipse pierced the violet sky of Nexus Prime, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 moons in perpetual orbital dance. Below, in the Commandant's office of the Galactic Defense Academy, Administrator Vexthor's facial tendrils twisted with concern as he studied the application hovering in the holographic display before him. A human. His secondary hearts skipped a beat. The Council must be joking. We can't accept a species that evolved on a death world. The Council's decision is final, replied Senior Instructor Zilax, her bioluminescent patches pulsing with barely contained anxiety. They believe accepting a human candidate will improve diplomatic relations with Earth. Have you seen their planetary classification? Gravity 2.3 times galactic standard. Extreme temperature variations. Constant exposure to radiation. Atmospheric oxygen levels that would be considered toxic on most worlds. Vexthor's tendrils coiled tighter. Their very biology is an affront to sensible evolution. The door chimed, interrupting his protest. Standing in the entrance was Cadet Sarah Chen, her dark eyes scanning the room with an intensity that made both aliens instinctively step back. Despite the Academy's 3G training environment, designed to challenge even the most robust species, she moved with casual grace. Administrator Vexthor. Her voice was calm, professional. Reporting as ordered, sir. Vexthor's sensor implants registered her core temperature and was alarmed to find it nearly hot enough to cook proteins. Yet she showed no signs of distress. If anything, she appeared completely at ease. Cadet Chen, your application is unprecedented. He gestured to a chair designed for beings with very different anatomies. Please be seated. Sarah assessed the alien furniture for a moment before smoothly adapting her posture to accommodate its strange angles. Thank you, sir. I understand I'm the first human to be accepted into the Academy. Yes, well, accepted might be a strong word, Xilax interjected, her bioluminescence shifting to skeptical purple. The Council has requested we evaluate your species' capability to integrate with galactic society. With respect, Senior Instructor. Sarah's lips curved slightly. I'm not here for evaluation. I'm here to excel. The confidence in her voice wasn't bravado. It was simple statement of fact. Vexthor felt his tendrils twitch involuntarily. In his centuries of administrative duty, he'd interviewed thousands of cadets from hundreds of species. None had ever made him feel like prey before. You understand, Cadet, that our training programs are designed for the galaxy's most elite warriors. The environmental conditions alone are similar to a pleasant spring day on Earth. Sarah completed his sentence. I reviewed the environmental specifications before accepting my placement. Your challenging gravity is actually less than what I trained under back home. Zilax's bioluminescence flickered in disbelief. You trained under higher gravity. 4G's standard. The Chinese Space Force believes in thorough preparation. Sarah's expression remained neutral, but there was something in her eyes. A glint of amusement, perhaps. I can demonstrate, if you'd like. Before either alien could respond, she stood and proceeded to execute a perfect acrobatic sequence. Flips, twists, and moves that shouldn't have been possible in triple gravity. She landed silently, not even breathing hard. By the void, Xilax whispered. The medical reports weren't exaggerated. They really are built like that. Vexthor found himself reconsidering his initial assessment. The human wasn't just adapting to their environment. She was thriving in it. And if this was representative of her species. Cadet Chen, he said finally, tomorrow you'll begin the standard evaluation course. It's designed to take a full planetary rotation to complete. Most species require several attempts before. How long is a planetary rotation here? Sarah interrupted, then quickly added, Sir, approximately 52 of your Earth hours. That slight smile returned. Then I'll see you in a few hours, sir. As she left the office, moving with that uncanny fluid grace, Vexthor turned to Xilax. Alert the medical bay. And he hesitated, Perhaps we should review our emergency protocols. Neither of them voiced the growing suspicion that it wasn't the human who would need medical attention. They had just admitted a Deathworlder into their ranks, and something told Vexthor that their definition of elite warrior was about to change dramatically. The evaluation chamber's control room hummed with nervous energy as technicians made final adjustments to their monitoring equipment. Through the reinforced observation window, Sarah Chen stood calmly in the center of the massive testing arena, wearing the standard-issue training suit that had been hastily modified to accommodate human physiology. "Beginning standard evaluation course," announced Chief Technical Officer Raxtel, his four hands dancing across the holographic interface, starting with basic environmental adaptation tests. Without warning, the chamber's gravity doubled, then tripled, then quadrupled. The alien observers waited for the human to collapse. Instead, Sarah rolled her shoulders and began doing what she later explained were jumping jacks. "Impossible," muttered Xylax. "Increase atmospheric pressure." The air grew dense enough to crush standard hull plating. Sarah's vital signs remained stable. She switched to one-handed push-ups. "Temperature variance test," ordered Vexthor, his tendrils practically tied in knots. The chamber cycled from near absolute zero to plasma torch heat in seconds. Their monitors showed Sarah's internal temperature adjusting automatically, her bizarre biological systems adapting instantaneously. She began humming something called "Show Must Go On." "Enough." Vexthor slammed all four hands onto the control panel. "Initialize the combat simulation. Maximum difficulty." The chamber transformed into a battlefield from hell. Holographic enemies materialized, the most dangerous warriors from across the galaxy. Plasma bolts filled the air. Gravitational anomalies warped space itself. Environmental hazards sprouted like deadly flowers. What happened next would be reviewed thousands of times by increasingly bewildered military analysts. Sarah moved like water through the chaos, her movements an impossible blend of efficiency and grace. Where other species relied on technology to counter the extreme conditions, she simply adapted. A Chronaxian war chief materialized behind her with a plasma blade. Sarah ducked, using the increased gravity to add momentum to her spin, and threw the 9-foot alien over her shoulder. 3 quantum assassins phased into existence, their probability weapons bending reality itself. She somehow predicted where they would actually be, not where they appeared to be, and dispatched them with precise strikes to their weak points. "She's not just surviving," Xylax whispered, her bioluminescence now a strobe of confused colors. "She's using the extreme conditions to her advantage." It was true. In sections of enhanced gravity, Sarah used the extra weight to hit harder. In low-gravity zones, she executed maneuvers that seemed to ignore physics entirely. When faced with environmental hazards, she turned them against her opponents. "Sir," called one of the technicians, their voice quavering. "She's completed 30% of the course already. It's been 17 minutes." Vexthor's tendrils went limp. "That's not possible. The quantum maze alone should take 6 hours to solve." "She didn't solve it," Raxtel reported, checking the logs. "She memorized the pattern of quantum fluctuations and just ran through between shifts. The computing power required to calculate that in real time would be human brains." Sarah's voice came through the comm system, slightly winded but amused, "are very good at pattern recognition. Also, your quantum fluctuations follow a standard Fibonacci sequence. Was that intentional?" The aliens watched in stunned silence as she proceeded to dismantle every challenge they threw at her. Combat scenarios designed to test whole squadrons. She developed tactics on the fly that no simulation had predicted. Psychological warfare modules. She seemed to enjoy them. Environmental hazards that would kill most species. "Just like summer in Australia," she commented. 2 hours and 13 minutes after the evaluation began, Sarah Chen stood in the center of the chamber again, barely sweating. The course was complete. All records were shattered. Several fundamental assumptions about physics were now in question. Cadet Chen. Vex Thor's voice shook slightly. The standard evaluation course has never been completed in under 50 hours. How did you? Oh, that wasn't even my best time, Sarah replied, stretching. I was being careful since it was my first attempt. May I try again? I spotted some inefficiencies in my route through the quantum maze. In the sudden silence, Zilax's bioluminescent patches switched off entirely, the equivalent of a faint. Raxtel was furiously recalibrating sensors, convinced they must be malfunctioning. And Vex Thor was remembering something he'd read in the briefing about Earth. It wasn't just the gravity or the temperature or the radiation that made it a death world. It was the fact that humans had not just survived there. They had thrived, adapted, and apparently turned themselves into something that made the galaxy's most elite warriors look like beginners. Cadet Chen, he said finally, report to medical for standard post-evaluation checks. And he hesitated. Perhaps you could explain this Australia you mentioned. For research purposes. Sarah's laugh echoed through the chamber. Sir, I don't think you're ready for that conversation yet. The emergency session of the Galactic Council's Security Committee materialized as shimmering holograms in Vex Thor's office. Their expressions, across a dozen different species, all shared the same look of barely contained alarm. Play the evaluation footage again, ordered High Counselor Xinra, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated severe stress. The holographic replay showed Sarah Chen moving through the course like a force of nature. The human completed every challenge, reported Vex Thor, his tendrils drooping with exhaustion after hours of emergency briefings. Not just completed, she optimized them, found weaknesses in systems we've used for centuries. That's precisely what we feared, rumbled Council Security Chief Drakmar, his armored carapace clicking nervously. You weren't told the full truth, Administrator. This wasn't a diplomatic gesture, it was a containment strategy. Zilax, still recovering from witnessing Sarah's performance, felt her bioluminescence pulse with shock. Containment. Humanity's development curve is unprecedented, explained Xinra. In less than 3 centuries, they went from primitive combustion engines to rudimentary faster-than-light travel. Our models suggest they'll match our technology level within decades, not millennia like other species. The holographic display shifted to show Earth, a seemingly innocuous blue-green sphere, but the data scrolling beside it told a different story. They call their homeworld a Class 3 planet. Drakmar continued. Our classification systems don't even have a category for worlds that hostile. The fact that they not only survived but developed advanced civilization in such conditions. We needed to understand their capabilities, interrupted another council member, their energy form flickering with anxiety. The Academy evaluation was designed to push them to their limits. Instead, Vex Thor completed the thought. Cadet Chen treated it like a light workout. The room fell silent as security footage showed Sarah in the Academy's recreation area, teaching other cadets something she called parkour. Several alien species that had evolved in low-gravity environments watched in horror as she demonstrated wall running. There's more, Zilax added, her patches shifting to worried cyan. During the quantum maze section, she didn't just complete it, she improved it. The calculations she performed instinctively would take our best supercomputers hours. Natural adaptation to quantum uncertainty, mused Xinra. Their planet's high radiation levels must have. She was interrupted by new footage. Sarah in the cafeteria, casually eating foods that would be lethal to most species. Their digestive systems can process multiple types of biological and synthetic materials, noted a horrified xenobiologist on the council. They can extract energy from almost anything. And this is just one human. Drakmar's carapace clicked faster. There are billions of them, each adapted to different extreme environments on their death world. Some live in frozen wastelands, others in scorching deserts. They call it tourism. The security committee erupted in nervous discussion. Phrases like potential threat and diplomatic intervention floated through the quantum-encrypted transmission. If I may, Vexthor raised all four hands for attention. I've spent time observing Cadet Chen. Yes, her capabilities are concerning, but there's something else you should consider. He played a new clip. Sarah rushing into a training accident, using her enhanced strength and resilience to save a crystalline cadet from a gravity malfunction. The human had risked injury to help a being physiologically different from herself, showing not just physical capability but ethical judgment. They're not just survivors, Vexthor continued. They're protectors. In every crisis simulation, Cadet Chen's first instinct was to ensure the safety of others, even at personal risk. Their adaptability isn't just physical, it's emotional, ethical. Are you suggesting we're approaching this wrong? Shinra's crystalline form shifted thoughtfully. I'm suggesting that instead of containing humanity, we should be learning from them. Their ability to thrive in hostile conditions, to adapt and improve rather than merely survive. Imagine that knowledge shared across the galaxy. The council members exchanged glances across light years of space. Finally, Drakmar spoke. Continue the evaluation, Administrator, but expand it. We need to understand not just what humans can do, but who they are. As the holograms faded, Xilax turned to Vexthor. Sir, should we inform Cadet Chen about the Council's original intentions? Vexthor's tendrils curled in amusement. Something tells me she already knows. Humans have another fascinating ability. They call it reading between the lines. Just one more thing that makes them uniquely dangerous. Outside, through the reinforced windows, they watched Sarah teaching a group of anti-gravity evolved cadets how to handle the Academy's heavy gravity conditions. Her laughter echoed across the training grounds, a sound that now carried new meaning. Humanity wasn't just joining the galactic community. They were about to revolutionize it. The Academy's warning sirens pierced the artificial night, their harmonic frequencies designed to alert every known species to danger. In the quantum engineering lab, chaos erupted as the experimental containment field began to collapse. Containment breach in Sector 7. The automated system's voice echoed through every corridor. Quantum singularity destabilizing. Evacuation protocol initiated. Sarah Chen was in the middle of her light evening workout, doing one-armed push-ups in triple gravity, when her enhanced hearing picked up something the others couldn't. The distinctive whine of quantum matrices approaching critical failure. That's not just a containment breach, she muttered, already sprinting toward the lab. The whole quantum matrix is collapsing. Inside the lab, Chief Engineer Rectal's tentacles worked frantically across 3 control panels simultaneously. Impossible. The fail-safes are failing sequentially. The quantum field is. It's evolving. Everyone out. Ordered Senior Researcher Nix, her crystalline form vibrating with panic. The containment field won't hold for more than. The blast doors sealed automatically, trapping the engineering team inside. Through the observation window, Sarah saw the quantum singularity beginning to pulse with impossible colors. Her mind raced through calculations, radiation levels, gravitational forces, time dilation effects. No known species could survive direct exposure to a quantum breach. Good thing humans weren't a known species. Cadet Chen, what are you? Vexthor's voice crackled through her comm unit as she accessed the emergency override panel. No time to explain, sir, Sarah replied, her fingers flying over the alien controls. That singularity is about to cascade. The standard containment protocols won't work because they're based on predictable quantum behavior. But it's not behaving predictably. It's adapting. Like you did in the quantum maze, Xilax realized, her bioluminescence pulsing with sudden understanding. Exactly. And if I'm right, Sarah's voice trailed off as she ripped open a maintenance panel, exposing the manual override controls. I need access to the primary containment systems. Now. There was a moment of hesitation before Vexthor responded. Granted. But Cadet, no biological entity can survive. Sarah was already moving. The blast doors slid open just enough for her to slip through before sealing again. Inside, the air itself seemed to twist as quantum forces warped local spacetime. "Get back," she shouted to the trapped engineering team. "And whatever happens, don't try to help. Human biology is weird about quantum effects." The truth was, Sarah wasn't entirely sure she'd survive this. But she'd read enough classified reports about human quantum resistance, a bizarre side effect of evolving on a radiation-soaked Deathworld, to have a theory. The singularity pulsed, reality fracturing around it. Sarah felt the quantum forces trying to tear her apart at the atomic level. But human cells had something the other species didn't, an almost absurd level of quantum tolerance, built up over millions of years of surviving everything Earth could throw at them. "You know," she grunted, forcing her way through gravitational forces that would reduce most beings to their component atoms. "We had something like this back home. Queensland's summer humidity. Almost as bad." Her joke fell flat, mainly because the engineering team had passed out from the quantum distortion. Just as well. What she was about to try would probably violate several laws of physics. Sarah reached the primary containment unit, her muscles straining against forces that shouldn't exist in normal space. The quantum singularity had evolved beyond the ability of automated systems to contain it. But maybe that was the answer. It needed something equally unpredictable to counter it. "Human consciousness," she muttered, remembering her quantum physics professor's lectures, "affects quantum states through observation. So let's try some very intense observation." She slammed her hand onto the quantum interface, something no organic being was ever meant to do. Pain blazed through her nervous system as her consciousness was partially pulled into quantum space. But instead of being torn apart, her uniquely adapted human brain began to make sense of it. Where the automated systems saw chaos, she saw patterns. Where the quantum fields seemed random, she perceived underlying rhythms. It was like a dance, and her Deathworld-evolved synapses somehow knew the steps. "Come on," she growled, her free hand working the controls while her mind wrestled with quantum probabilities. "Show me what you've got. I survived Australian wildlife. You're not even in the top 10. The singularity pulsed once more, but this time, Sarah was ready. She didn't try to contain it with brute force like the automated systems. Instead, she guided it, using her own consciousness as a quantum observer to collapse its wave functions into stable states. Slowly, impossibly, the quantum breach began to stabilize. Reality reasserted itself in waves, like ripples settling on a pond. When the engineering team regained consciousness, they found Sarah Chen still standing at the controls, bleeding from her nose but grinning. "Quantum breach contained," she announced, her voice hoarse. "Though I think I might have accidentally solved the unified field theory. Anyone got a pen? These quantum equations aren't going to write themselves." She passed out before she could explain further, leaving behind a room full of stunned aliens and a partially rewritten understanding of quantum physics scrawled in her own blood on the containment unit's casing. In the observation room, Vex Thor turned to Zilax. "Contact the council," he said quietly. "Tell them we were wrong. We weren't containing humanity. They were containing themselves. And I think they were doing it to protect us." Outside the lab, the Academy sirens fell silent, while inside, a human lay unconscious, having once again proved that the galaxy's understanding of impossible needed serious revision. The Galactic Council's emergency session was unlike any in recorded history. For the first time, representatives from every spacefaring civilization gathered not in fear, but in awe. The holographic display showed Sarah Chen's quantum containment feat from multiple angles, along with analysis that had kept the galaxy's brightest minds sleepless for days. The equations she wrote in her own blood. First Speaker Catal announced, their energy form flickering with excitement, have revolutionized our understanding of quantum mechanics. 3 previously unsolvable cosmic engineering problems have already been resolved using her insights. Blood as a writing medium, muttered a horrified diplomatic attaché. Deathworlders are resourceful. Sarah sat in the witness chair, looking remarkably composed for someone who had recently interfaced directly with a quantum singularity. The medical staff had cleared her for duty after only 2 days, another fact that had the xenobiologists updating their textbooks. Cadet Chen, High Counselor Xinra's crystalline form sparkled with carefully controlled curiosity. You must have known the quantum interface could have destroyed your consciousness. Why take that risk? With respect, Counselor, Sarah replied. Humanity has a saying. Someone has to do something, and it's just incredibly pathetic that it has to be us. Though I believe that was originally about debugging computer code. A ripple of confused murmurs swept through the council chamber. Vexthor, standing at attention nearby, felt his tendrils curl in amusement. He'd learned that human humor often carried deeper truths. What Cadet Chen means, he interpreted, is that humans don't calculate risks the way we do. They don't ask if something is possible. They ask if it's necessary. Indeed, rumbled Drakmar, his carapace now decorated with new markings indicating revised authority. Our original assessment of humanity was fundamentally flawed. We saw their adaptability as a threat, their resilience as a danger, their unpredictability as a weakness. If I may, Security Chief, Sarah interjected, standing with that unnervingly fluid grace that still made some species nervous. You weren't entirely wrong. Humans are dangerous. Our history is full of violence, conflict, and mistakes. But that's precisely why we understand the value of peace. She gestured to the quantum equations still floating in the holographic display. We didn't develop our abilities to conquer. We developed them to survive. And now that we have survived, we want to help others do the same. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just another species to be managed or contained. They were what happened when life refused to accept limitations, when consciousness itself evolved to thrive in conditions that should have made existence impossible. I propose, Xinra announced, her crystalline surfaces refracting light in patterns that indicated formal decree, that we establish a new division within the Galactic Defense Force, one that combines humanity's unique capabilities with our established knowledge. The Deathworld Integration Corps, Drakmar suggested, then quickly added as he saw Sarah's expression, though perhaps we should workshop that name. Whatever you call it, Sarah said, Earth is ready to help. We've spent our entire existence learning to overcome impossible challenges. It's time we shared those lessons. The vote was unanimous, a first in council history. As the session concluded, Vexthor approached his former cadet, who would soon be Colonel Chen of the newly formed Human Galactic Joint Operations Command. The name was still in progress. You knew, didn't you? He asked. From the beginning, you knew this was a containment evaluation. Sarah's lips curved in that now familiar slight smile. Administrator, humans have been containing ourselves for millennia. We learned early that with great power comes great responsibility. Though I think that was originally about radioactive spider bites. Before Vexthor could decode that reference, alarms blared through the council chamber. A quantum anomaly had been detected in the Carina sector, similar to the one Sarah had contained, but orders of magnitude larger. Well, Sarah said, already moving toward the emergency response center, looks like humanity's first official lesson in crisis management is about to begin. Anyone want to learn how to improvise? As council members rushed to mobilize resources, Vexthor watched the human stride confidently toward another impossible challenge. He remembered something she had said during her first day at the academy. I'm not here for evaluation. I'm here to excel. She had done more than excel. She had shown the galaxy that the most powerful force in existence wasn't quantum energy or gravitational fields. It was life's stubborn determination to thrive, to adapt, to overcome, and humanity had turned that determination into an art form. The galaxy would never be the same. And as Sarah Chen prepared to teach the cosmos what humanity had learned from their Deathworld crucible, Vex Thor realized it was exactly what everyone needed. After all, in a universe full of impossible challenges, who better to lead the way than the species that had made impossible their starting point?